Is plastic surgery ever covered by your medical insurance? In this video, I'm specifically going to be talking about eyelid plastic surgery, and the answer actually might surprise you. If you're watching this, you're likely dealing with a droopy eyelid of some kind, which is causing you issues like, having a hard time driving or reading, or having to raise your forehead all the time just to be able to clear your vision, which can sometimes cause headaches. And you're probably thinking that fixing this is going to cost a fortune, but you might be surprised to find out that medical insurance will sometimes cover eyelid surgery. In this video, I'm going to tell you exactly how that process works, so keep watching if you want to figure out each step along the way there. Think of it like maintaining your car. If you have a problem with your engine, well, that's a safety issue and a functional issue, so your warranty or your insurance is going to cover that. But if you got a problem with the paint on your car, that's more of a cosmetic one, and so it's not something that your insurance is going to step in and pay for. It's exactly the same with eyelid surgery. If you've got a medical issue that's affecting your ability to see, there are some insurances, most insurances, that will cover eyelid surgery, certain kinds. However, if it's clearly something where you just don't like the appearance of your eyelids and it's not affecting your vision, well, then that's more considered of a cosmetic issue. There are specific medical criteria that guide whether insurance is going to cover your surgery. In this video, I'm going to provide a clear guide of what those criteria are to kind of walk you through the process before you even go to the doctor. We're going to break down the required tests, the key measurements, and the documentation that your doctor is going to need to work with your insurance company if you do indeed meet criteria. If you stick with me in this video, I'm going to show you how you can potentially save money by getting your insurance to cover a procedure that you might think is plastic surgery. First off, it's critical to understand the distinction between cosmetic and functional surgery, because this distinction is going to be the foundation for the claim to your insurance company, just like you'd make a claim if you had a car insurance issue after an accident. Cosmetic surgery is performed purely for appearance. For example, if you feel like you look tired and you want to look younger, well, that's not something that your insurance is going to step in and cover on everyone else's dime. However, functional surgery is completely different. This is when your eyelids are physically obstructing your vision. We're not talking about a minor droop where you can pinch a little bit of skin when you pull really hard. We're talking about a major obstruction where some part of your eyelid is blocking half or a third, let's say, of the colored part of your eye to where you really can't see your full eye in a picture if you're looking straight ahead. The two main issues that can cause the eyelids to block your vision are, number one, extra skin, which the medical term for that is dermatochalasis, and number two, when the eyelid muscle has stretched off its attachment, and that is something called ptosis. Dermatochalasis is when there's too much extra skin on the eyelid, and that skin is overhanging your eyelashes to where it's actually covering up the top half of your vision, and if you looked at it in a picture, you wouldn't be able to see part of the colored part of your eye because that skin is in the way. Ptosis is a little bit different. Ptosis is where the eyelashes themselves have come down and creeped into the colored part of your eye, blocking that black dot, the pupil, and that's because the muscle that lifts the eyelid has stretched off where it needs to be, and that's when the eyelashes will sit too low to where you have to really crank your forehead to be able to see. Insurance companies can cover both types of procedures, but you have to provide strong evidence, and a lot of the times they'll only cover one of those two procedures, not both. As far as lower eyelid surgery goes, for bags under the eyes or dark circles, that's not something that's covered by insurance. That is considered purely cosmetic. Why is that? Because bags under your eyes and loose skin do not block your vision. So don't try to get that one through your insurance because it's not going to work, and your doctor is going to kind of roll your eyes if he sees that. So in order to get coverage, you have to prove that the surgery is medically necessary. But how are you going to convince your insurance company that that's actually the case? So here's where we'll talk about building your case for insurance coverage for upper eyelid surgery. So insurance companies work with objective data. They're not going to necessarily go with subjective data like, I don't like how I look, or I don't like the way my eyelids fold. That's not going to unfortunately be very important to them. I'm just being honest with you. You're essentially building a case with objective evidence, and there's three pillars to the proof you need to get your insurance company to cover your eyelid plastic surgery. Number one, medical photography. First thing is you need high quality photos. And those photos need to show that either the eyelid skin or the eyelashes are covering up that top half or colored part of your eye. It's really important when you get these photos taken at your doctor's office that you don't go in using your forehead or tipping your chin back like you probably do all the time if you have a droopy eyelid, you're just not really realizing it. Because if you do that and you take your photos like this, I'm pretty sure your insurance company is not going to say that your eyelids are blocking your vision. So you have to keep your chin down, relax your forehead by closing your eyes, and then just open your eyes with your eyelashes. Looking straight ahead at the camera, you want to actually be able to show the insurance company that in the resting position without using your crutch of your forehead, you can actually show that your eyelids are blocking your vision in some way. For extra skin, you need to show that the extra skin is on top of the eyelashes and overhanging them to where it's blocking the colored part of the eye. If they're just touching the eyelashes, I'm sorry, but that's just not going to cut it. For ptosis, you have to show that the eyelashes themselves, the way the eyelid hangs down, actually cuts across the center of your vision and blocks that pupil, which is the black dot in the middle of the eye. That's the type of objective data you need from the photo to prove medical necessity. Pillar number 2, medical measurements. In your doctor's visit, they are going to take measurements of your eye, and those measurements are going to go into the medical record to be submitted to your insurance company as part of your file to get a claim for insurance. So the most important piece of data that your doctor is going to get at that visit is the distance from the center of your eye to either your eyelid skin or your eyelashes, whichever comes first. That is something called the margin to reflex distance, or MRD1. That's the single most important data point in this whole process. That data point needs to be 2 millimeters or less for most insurances to cover eyelid surgery. Another way of saying that is your eyelashes or your skin have got to be within 2 millimeters of the center of your eye in order for insurance to cover your eyelid surgery. That is a pretty universal rule across most, if not all, insurances. The second thing that's helpful, and this is where there is some subjective stuff, is they gotta know, how is this affecting your life? Is it affecting your ability to read, to drive because it's cutting off your peripheral vision and your blind spot? Is it causing you headaches because you're raising your forehead? Can you not work at a computer and do the job activities that are required in order to maintain your employment? Those are the kinds of things that matter to an insurance company from a subjective standpoint, even though they really don't matter that much compared to the objective data. The third pillar is something called the visual field test. This is just one piece of evidence that your insurance uses to decide or deny eyelid surgery, and not all insurances necessarily use it, but most doctors' offices get this test in case they need it. What this is looking at is just basically seeing how much of your peripheral vision in the upper half of your vision is being blocked by your droopy eyelids. Here's the crucial step, so pay attention. The test is actually performed twice. In the first version of the test, they're gonna have you look at a point, whether it's a white dot or a target to look at, and you really wanna relax for this part of the test. You don't wanna do this the whole time you're doing it because you're gonna see everything. You wanna try to be in that resting position we talked about, chin down, forehead relaxed, eyes open, and that's gonna ask you, do you see this in your peripheral vision? Tell me when you see it. Sometimes it's a machine, sometimes it's a poster board or a felt screen on the wall. It doesn't really matter necessarily how they do it, but that's the first phase of the test because they want to show the insurance company how bad is your peripheral vision. The second step of the test is your doctor's office is going to tape the eyelid up or hold it up to basically show that if we were to successfully unblock your vision by opening your eyelid, how much better would you see? And so when you do that second version of the test, they're wanting to show how much of those spots that you didn't see the first time you can see the second time around. That difference is going to dictate partly whether insurance will cover your surgery and whether it's medically necessary to begin with. So to recap, there are 3 pillars: photos, the documentation in your doctor's exam, and the visual field test. Those 3 things are what you need in order for your file to be submitted properly to your insurance for coverage. Okay, so now you know the process. So how do you get this done successfully? Well, first of all, it starts with seeing the right type of specialist. So there are specific type of surgeons that do eyelid surgery all day, every day, and they are called oculofacial or eyelid plastic surgeons, and I'm one. You can go to Oculofacial Society to find one near you, and not everybody's gonna do things the exact same way and necessarily say it or explain it the way I do, but that's a qualified group of people that perform this surgery on a regular basis. Most offices like this will be familiar with the insurance process. You'll want to call just to make sure that they take your insurance before you make it all the way to their office. When you see them, provide specific details. Don't just say, I can't see, or I don't like this. You gotta say, I notice that when I'm driving, I'm really having to turn my shoulder to see my blind spot, or I notice that when I'm looking at a computer, I'm raising my forehead, and by the end of the day, my eyes are like this, and I get headaches every day. Those are the kinds of things that are helpful from our standpoint to be able to write down in your medical record for when we submit it to your insurance company. After the exam, the surgeon's office is going to put your file together with the photos, the visual field, and the note, and they're going to send it to your insurance company for something called pre-authorization to determine if they're going to cover the surgery. Now, brow lift surgery is something that's very rarely covered by insurance. In my experience, sometimes insurance will cover it if you are removing a little bit of skin above the eyebrows, which can result in a scar, but they're not going to cover it for something like a forehead lift. So I wouldn't necessarily have that in your mind, because it's just not going to set you up for success. You really have to show that it's the brow that's blocking the vision, not the eyelid skin or the eyelashes, and that can be pretty hard to prove. So if you've been living with droopy eyelids, or if you've noticed that another family member has been, I want you to know that this is fixable, and it doesn't necessarily cost you a fortune to fix it, because sometimes your insurance will step in and cover it. I would encourage you to schedule a consultation with an oculofacial plastic surgeon. It's the only way to really find out if you meet criteria for coverage. If you found this video helpful, I'd appreciate it if you check out the other videos on our feed or hit the subscribe button. So back to the main question, is eyelid plastic surgery covered by insurance? The answer is, sometimes it is, but only if you can prove that it is a functional issue, not something just related to vanity. The path to getting this covered is built on objective data. It requires clear photos, good medical documentation, and that visual field test. Unfortunately, even if you have all three of those things, there are some insurance plans that simply don't cover eyelid surgery at all. In order to figure that out, you can actually call your insurance plan ahead of time to see if it's on the list of covered procedures. And while lower eyelid surgery for bags is always considered cosmetic, upper eyelid surgery can sometimes be covered. I hope this video has been helpful to you, and check out the other videos on our feed if you want to learn more about eyelid surgery.